The galaxy had known war for years. Different alien races fought for control over planets, resources, and power. The Galactic Alliance, a group of the most powerful alien species, thought they were unbeatable. They ruled the galaxy with confidence. They had the strongest fleets, the best technology, and armies that could crush any enemy. For many years, their power seemed untouchable. Across the galaxy, the war had become routine. Different factions would clash in space, battles would rage over strategic planets, and new wars would begin the moment one ended. But there was one thing all the alien leaders agreed on: humanity was weak. They had barely been a presence in the galaxy. The humans had no powerful fleets, no great armies, and their technology was far behind the aliens. The aliens saw humans as small, unimportant creatures who could barely survive on their home planet, Earth. Most aliens didn't even think about humans. They were too busy fighting each other, expanding their empires, and securing their power. They had no reason to worry about Earth or its people. Humanity had never been a threat. At least, that's what they thought. But the whispers had started. It began with rumors. Ships reported strange signals coming from deep space. Some said it was just a glitch in their scanners. Others claimed it was an error in the system. But the signals kept coming. First, they were faint, barely noticeable. But soon, they grew stronger. Something was out there. Something moving through deep space faster than any ship had ever traveled. Something massive. At first, the Galactic Alliance dismissed it. "It's nothing," they said. "Probably a fluke or a random signal." They continued with their battles, unaware that this strange signal was a warning. The leaders laughed it off. They didn't see the need to worry. They had bigger problems: wars to win, systems to conquer. And they had the power to do it. But deep down, there was a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. More ships began to report strange readings, signals that didn't make sense. Strange energy surges in parts of the galaxy no one dared to enter. And then, one by one, the alien warships began to disappear. They had been ambushed in systems far from home. They were found destroyed, their wreckage floating in space with no signs of a battle. Only one thing was clear: they had not been destroyed by any weapon the aliens knew. It was as if a new force had appeared, a force they could not see or understand. In one corner of the galaxy, the humans had been quietly working. They were not a part of the Galactic Alliance, and they were not involved in the wars that were shaking the galaxy. Instead, they had been building something in secret, something the aliens would never expect. In their remote shipyards, hidden in the dark reaches of space, the humans had been constructing a warship. Not just any warship, but a ship that could match and surpass the power of anything the aliens had ever seen. The warship was built in the strictest secrecy. Only a handful of humans knew about it. The design was a mix of advanced technology and cunning strategy, far beyond what the aliens thought humanity was capable of. It was the kind of ship that could change the galaxy forever. The human warship was ready. It had been for months. But the time to strike had not yet come. The humans knew the galaxy was unaware of their plans. They were watching, waiting for the right moment to show the aliens what humanity was truly capable of. Then, everything changed. One day, without warning, the human warship entered the galaxy's most important battleground. The aliens were already fighting over a key resource-rich planet. Two large alien fleets were locked in battle, each one determined to take control of the planet. The space around the planet was filled with explosions, laser beams, and debris. It seemed like just another day in the galaxy's endless war. But then, a new presence appeared. A massive ship emerged from deep space. The aliens had never seen anything like it. At first, they didn't know what it was. Their sensors didn't pick it up at first, as if it was somehow invisible to their systems. But then, it appeared in front of them, as if it had always been there, waiting. The warships on both sides of the battle froze. Their sensors picked up the ship, but they couldn't make sense of it. It was massive, bigger than any ship they had ever seen. Its shape was sleek, almost alien, and its energy readings were off the charts. Nothing could compare to it. The human warship opened fire. In a flash, its weapons lit up the dark expanse of space. The first shots ripped through alien ships with terrifying precision. The massive warships of the alien fleets were torn apart in moments. The aliens couldn't believe what they were seeing. The human warship fired again and again, effortlessly destroying entire fleets. It was like nothing they had ever faced before. The aliens began to panic. Their once certain victory now seemed impossible. They had never thought of humans as a threat. But now, humanity's power was undeniable. The galaxy had underestimated them, and the aliens had no idea how to stop them. The peaceful galaxy that had existed for so long was shattered. The war was about to change, and the aliens would soon learn just how powerful humanity could be. In the depths of space, where stars twinkled like distant diamonds, something strange was happening. The galaxy had always been full of signals, radio waves, communications between fleets, and the hum of ships traveling through the stars. But lately, a new signal had started appearing. At first, it was faint, barely noticeable, just a small disturbance in the usual noise of the galaxy. Alien fleets and space stations, used to the constant flow of information, paid little attention. Just a glitch, they said. Probably nothing to worry about. But the signal didn't go away. It continued to repeat, growing slightly stronger every day. Ships began to pick it up, and a few ships near the edge of the galaxy sent reports back to their leaders. At first, the Galactic Alliance dismissed it. They had bigger problems. After all, wars to fight, systems to conquer, and new technologies to develop. A small signal from deep space wasn't anything to worry about. It was probably just some space anomaly, or maybe an unknown ship sending a weak distress signal. Nothing they couldn't handle. So they focused on what mattered to them, their battles, their plans, their power. But the signal kept growing. It started to reach more ships and stations. The energy readings it gave off were strange, too powerful, too organized to be random. The signal wasn't like anything the aliens had seen before. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. And it wasn't coming from a known ship or planet. It came from deep in the unknown parts of space, where no one had ventured for centuries. The leaders of the Galactic Alliance began to take notice, though they were still unsure of what to make of it. It was only when a few of their most advanced warships returned from distant systems with strange readings that they finally realized something important. This was not a natural event. It was a message. The signals were patterns, repeating in ways that suggested they had been sent intentionally. Someone, or something, was out there, sending a warning or a message. But the aliens didn't understand it. They had never encountered anyone who could send signals with this kind of power. They didn't know what it meant or who it was coming from. One alien commander, a sharp-minded leader named Zorlok, decided to investigate. He had heard rumors of strange things happening in the far reaches of the galaxy. Ships going missing, unexplained energy surges, and even the sudden disappearance of entire fleets. Zorlok believed the signal might be related. He sent his most trusted officers to track it down. The signal was becoming clearer, more defined. It wasn't just random noise. There was a message hidden in it, something more complex. Zorlok's fleet followed the signal, pushing deeper into the unknown. They had no idea what they would find, but they had to know. They couldn't ignore this mystery, not when it was growing stronger with each passing day. As the fleet moved closer to the source of the signal, the stars around them seemed to grow darker, as though they were entering a part of space that had been forgotten by time itself. The fleet slowed and tension filled the air. The aliens were nervous. What could they possibly encounter in the depths of space? They were the most powerful force in the galaxy, but this signal had them questioning everything they knew. Finally, they reached the source. The moment they did, the signal stopped. There was a long moment of silence in the command room of Zorlok's ship. His officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had arrived at the coordinates where the signal had been strongest. But there was nothing there. No ships, no planets, just empty space. But then, the silence was broken. A new signal began to pulse through their systems. This one was different. It was not like the others. It was louder, sharper, and it carried with it a sense of power that made the aliens freeze. The signal was unmistakable. It was a warning, a message. But this time, it wasn't just a pattern. It was something more. Zorlok felt his heart race. He could sense that something was coming. Something big, something that would change everything. "Get ready," he said, his voice low and tense. This is no coincidence. The signal echoed through space, sending out its powerful message. A new force is coming, and it is not like anything you've ever faced. Zorlok's mind raced. He knew that this wasn't just a strange occurrence. This was something planned. Someone had been watching them. Someone had been waiting for the right moment. The signal had been a warning, but it was also a challenge. The moment they had been waiting for had arrived. In the far reaches of space, hidden from their view, the human warship was preparing to make its move. The aliens had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out. The tension in the galaxy was thick. The signal that had been spreading across space was still fresh in the minds of the alien fleets. The Galactic Alliance was on high alert, but they still didn't know what to expect. Every corner of the galaxy seemed to tremble with uncertainty. It was only a matter of time before something happened, but no one knew exactly what that would be. Then the unexpected happened. It started as a small dot in the distance, far away in the reaches of a battle-ravaged sector of space. At first, it looked like just another speck of dust in the blackness of space. Nothing to worry about. But as the ships in the area continued to scan, the dot began to grow. Slowly at first, but then much faster. In a matter of moments, the unknown object was visible to every ship in the sector. It was enormous, far bigger than anything the alien fleets had ever seen. It seemed to move with unnatural speed, faster than any ship could travel. It was coming straight toward the middle of the battle where several alien fleets were already engaged in a deadly war over a critical planet. The first shock came when the object appeared on the radar. It didn't show up as any normal ship. The technology used to detect it was unable to classify it. The systems didn't understand what they were seeing. There was no matching signature, no identification, just a mass moving through space at impossible speeds. Panic spread like wildfire through the alien command ships. "What is it?" One officer cried. "We need to know what this is. It's heading straight for us." Then the ship emerged fully into view. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Sleek and massive, the warship had a strange, almost eerie design. It looked like it had been built with alien technology, but something was different, something that felt far ahead of anything the aliens had developed. The ship's hull gleamed in the light of distant stars, as though it had been made of a material that could reflect and absorb energy all at once. It had no visible engines, no weapons visible at first glance, yet the alien fleets could feel the power radiating from it. For a moment, there was silence across the battlefield. The alien fleets, locked in their own war, stopped fighting as they all turned to face this new arrival. It wasn't just a ship. It was something that commanded attention. On the ground, the humans had prepared for this moment for years, building their warship in secret, far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Alliance. The humans knew their time had come. They had waited for the right moment to show the galaxy who they truly were. The alien factions thought they were in control, that they were the strongest. But now, they would learn that humanity was capable of so much more. The warship, with all its power and mystery, began to send out a message, loud and clear. The message wasn't spoken. It was felt by everyone who could hear the signal. Suddenly, without warning, the warship opened fire. A blinding flash of energy surged from the ship, and within seconds, the alien fleet closest to the warship was obliterated. The alien ships didn't even have a chance to retaliate. The blast was so powerful that it rippled through space, causing explosions in nearby ships. The shockwave of the attack spread, knocking other alien ships off course. The aliens scrambled. They tried to fire back, but their weapons didn't even make a dent in the warship's defenses. No one had ever seen technology like this before. The weapons the alien fleets used, once feared across the galaxy, seemed useless against the human warship. The ships attempted evasive maneuvers, but the human warship followed them effortlessly, its movements precise and calculating. On the command decks of the alien ships, fear began to spread. This wasn't like any other enemy they had faced. There were no weak points, no obvious flaws. The warship moved as if it was alive, anticipating the enemy's moves before they made them. The technology was beyond anything the aliens had in their fleets. One by one, alien ships were destroyed. Entire fleets were wiped out in a matter of minutes. The once mighty alien forces now realized they were up against something they didn't understand, something they couldn't fight. Their leaders sent desperate messages to each other, trying to coordinate a counterattack, but it was too late. The human warship had made its presence known, and the galaxy would never be the same. On the warship's bridge, the human commanders watched the destruction unfold. Their mission was clear: show the galaxy that humanity was not weak, that they could no longer be ignored. They had been underestimated for too long, and now they would make sure the entire galaxy knew the truth. As the warship tore through the enemy fleets, the humans felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was their moment, the moment they had been waiting for. They were no longer the quiet species in the shadows of space. They had arrived, and the galaxy would remember them forever. The battlefield had once been filled with alien warships, huge, powerful, and confident. They had fought each other for control of a vital planet, believing themselves to be unstoppable. But now, the situation had changed. The human warship was no longer a distant mystery. It was here, and it was destroying everything in its path. In the command rooms of the alien ships, chaos erupted. The once calm officers were now panicking, scrambling to find any solution to the threat before them. Nothing in their training had prepared them for something like this. The human warship had appeared out of nowhere, and it was more powerful than anything they could comprehend. One alien fleet commander, Captain Lyra, stood frozen as she watched the destruction unfold on her ship's view screen. "What are we dealing with?" she whispered to herself. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The human warship had just wiped out an entire fleet in a matter of minutes. Their weapons couldn't touch it, and their ships were helpless against its power. They had tried everything: laser fire, missiles, evasive maneuvers, but none of it worked. The warship seemed to move faster than they could react, its defenses too strong to penetrate. Lyra's heart raced as she realized the truth. "We're being wiped out, one by one." Her voice cracked as she sent a distress signal to the rest of the fleet. "All ships retreat. Fall back. I repeat, retreat." But the words felt hollow as she said them. How could they run from something they couldn't even fight? Meanwhile, on another part of the battlefield, the leader of a different alien faction, General Zarnak, stared at his monitors with disbelief. His ships, once a powerful force in the galaxy, were being torn apart. His soldiers fought valiantly, but it was clear they had no chance. One by one, their ships were destroyed. The human warship's weapons cut through them like they were made of paper. "No, this can't be happening," General Zarnak muttered, his voice shaking with fear. He had never seen anything like this before. The humans, a species once considered weak and insignificant, were now the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Zarnak's mind raced as he tried to think of a way to stop the destruction. He ordered his fleet to form up, hoping that if they attacked together, they could overwhelm the human warship. But even as the ships aligned for the assault, the human warship shifted positions, anticipating their moves before they even made them. Zarnak watched in horror as his ships were obliterated one by one. The human warship didn't just fire. It was precise, calculated. It wasn't wasting any shots. Each blast seemed to be aimed at the most vulnerable parts of his ships, targeting them with terrifying accuracy. His fleet was crumbling before his eyes. Desperation spread quickly throughout the battlefield. Alien officers and commanders exchanged panicked messages, trying to organize a counterattack. But there was no time. The human warship was too fast, too powerful. The message was clear. There was nothing they could do to stop it. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Alien factions, once full of confidence, were now filled with fear. Their pride had been shattered. They had always believed themselves to be the supreme rulers of the galaxy, but now they realized they were vulnerable. They had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them everything. On the human warship, the crew watched as their weapons continued to cut through the alien forces. The officers were calm, their faces set with determination. They had known this moment was coming. They had trained for it. And now that it was here, they wouldn't let up. They had one goal: to show the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. The captain of the human warship, Captain Jackson, stood at the front of the bridge, watching the destruction unfold. His voice was steady as he gave orders to his crew. Continue the assault. No mercy. Let them see who they are up against. Jackson knew the galaxy would never be the same after this. Once the human warship had proven its strength, the aliens would have no choice but to listen to humanity. There would be no more dismissing them as weak. They had earned their place in the galaxy. But as the battle raged on, a new feeling began to grow among the alien commanders. Panic. The kind of panic that sets in when a creature realizes it has no escape, when it knows it is outmatched. It spread faster than the news of the warship's arrival. One by one, alien ships turned and fled, their commanders hoping to escape the unstoppable force bearing down on them. But it was too late. The human warship had already shown them the truth. There was nowhere left to run. As the final alien fleet attempted to retreat, the human warship followed relentlessly, cutting off any escape routes. The galaxy had never seen a battle like this. The alien forces, once the most powerful in the universe, were now running for their lives. On the battlefield, a new reality was setting in. The human warship had changed everything. And the aliens knew it. They were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. The galaxy trembled as the once powerful alien fleets scattered. The human warship was unstoppable. And it was just the beginning. The humans had arrived, and the aliens would have to learn to live in a galaxy where humanity was no longer the underdog. The battlefield was silent. Where once mighty alien fleets had fought for control, there was now only wreckage. Broken ships drifted through space, their flames slowly fading into the endless void. The few alien vessels that had survived were running, desperately fleeing from the nightmare they had just witnessed. But the nightmare was not over. At the center of it all, the human warship stood untouched. No damage, no weaknesses, no signs of struggle. It had entered the battle like a storm, and now it remained like a god, watching as the galaxy trembled in fear. On the command deck of the alien flagship, Supreme Commander Xylox clutched his control panel with trembling hands. His scales, once a proud shade of deep blue, had paled in terror. He had led countless battles, defeated countless enemies. But now, for the first time in his life, he felt powerless. How can this be happening? He whispered. His officers were too afraid to answer. They didn't have an explanation. The humans were supposed to be weak. That's what the Galactic Alliance had always believed. They were a young race, a species that had barely spread beyond their own star system. They had no empire, no grand fleets, no mighty warlords. They had been ignored, dismissed. But now, everything had changed. The warship wasn't just a vessel. It was a message, a declaration to the entire galaxy. The humans had spent years in the shadows, watching, learning, preparing. While the alien empires fought among themselves, the humans had been building something far greater than anyone had imagined. And now, the galaxy was paying the price for underestimating them. Incoming transmission. An officer on Psylocke's ship suddenly shouted. The commander's heart pounded. A message. From the humans? Psylocke swallowed hard and activated the screen. The image of a human appeared before him. A man with sharp eyes and a cold expression. His uniform was simple, but his presence carried an undeniable power. This was no ordinary soldier. This was a leader. "This is Captain Jackson of the HSS Retribution," the human said. His voice was calm, steady, like he was speaking to insects rather than the leaders of great alien empires. "Your fleets are defeated. Your weapons are useless. You have only two choices: surrender or be destroyed." Psylocke's blood ran cold. Surrender. He had never even considered such a thing before. His empire was one of the strongest in the galaxy. And yet, in front of this human warship, he felt like nothing. We need time to negotiate," he said, trying to regain his composure. Jackson's lips curled into a slight smirk. "You don't have time." Before Psylocke could respond, the human warship powered up its weapons again. A terrifying hum filled the air, shaking the entire alien flagship. The energy readings spiked so high that the ship's sensors couldn't even calculate them. Psylocke knew that if the humans fired again, his ship, his entire fleet, would be wiped out. "Wait," he shouted. We accept your terms." Silence followed. The humans didn't respond immediately. They let the fear settle in. They let the aliens feel their helplessness. Then, finally, Jackson spoke again. "Smart choice," he said. "Transmit your surrender to all remaining ships. Any vessel that refuses will be destroyed." Psylocke turned to his officers. Their faces were full of shock, disbelief, and submission. They nodded, too afraid to disobey. Slowly, Psylocke gave the command. Across the battlefield, the remaining alien ships powered down their weapons and sent out surrender signals. The war was over. Or at least, this battle was over. In the shadows of space, the news spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, alien rulers, generals, and emperors received the same terrifying message. Humanity had arrived. And they were far more powerful than anyone had ever imagined. It wasn't just the warship. That was only a hint of what humanity had been hiding. If they could build something like this, what else did they have? What other secrets were they keeping? Fear took hold of the galaxy. The once powerful empires that had ruled without challenge now had to face a terrifying reality. They were no longer the strongest. And the humans, they weren't done yet. Back on the HSS Retribution, Captain Jackson turned to his crew. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Let them know the mission is a success. The galaxy understands now." The officer at the communications console nodded. "Message sent, sir." Jackson gazed at the vast emptiness of space, where the remnants of the alien fleet floated like debris in the wind. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was in shock. The human warship had appeared out of nowhere and crushed the most powerful fleets in the known universe. It had not just won a battle, it had rewritten the rules of war. Alien empires that had once looked down on humanity now whispered in fear. But fear was not the only reaction. Some species, some commanders, some leaders refused to accept defeat. They were desperate to fight back. The War Council's decision. Inside a massive space station hidden deep in the Xeric Nebula, the war leaders of the remaining alien factions gathered. Holograms flickered, showing the battered remnants of their fleets. Their faces were grim, their voices filled with frustration. "We cannot allow this to continue," growled Supreme General Vorkath of the Bracker Dominion, his heavy fists slamming on the table. His reptilian eyes burned with fury. "One human warship should not be enough to defeat us." "They have already won a battle," said Grand Strategist Ilani of the Xelari Consortium, her long tendrils twitching. "If we do nothing, they will win the war. The others nodded in agreement. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries, unchallenged. Now, a single human warship had torn through them like they were nothing. If humanity had more ships like this, they could conquer everything. "We need a counterattack," said Admiral Voxar of the Threxian Empire. "A plan. A way to bring down this human warship before more appear." "But how?" asked the nervous scientist. "We fired everything at it. Our most advanced weapons, our strongest fleets. Nothing worked." Vorkath bared his sharp teeth in anger. "Then we need to find our weakness." The hunt for weaknesses. Across the galaxy, alien intelligence agencies scrambled to uncover the secret behind the human warship's power. They analyzed battle recordings, scanned for patterns, and questioned every surviving pilot who had faced the humans. One key fact became clear. The human ship was beyond anything they had ever seen. Its shields could absorb energy weapons without breaking. Its hull was resistant to physical attacks. It moved faster than any known warship. It could predict enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. But how? How had humanity, a species with no great empire, built something this powerful? Then, a breakthrough came. On a remote research outpost, a Tsilari scientist made a discovery. Their ship, "It doesn't operate like ours," she said, eyes wide with realization. "It's not just made of stronger materials, it thinks." The others stared at her. She continued, "Their ship isn't just following orders, it's adapting. It reacts to attacks before they even happen. It's as if it's learning, evolving during battle." Silence filled the room. If this was true, then they were facing something far worse than just a powerful warship. They were facing a weapon that grew stronger every time it fought. A desperate plan. With this new knowledge, the War Council came up with a desperate plan. "We must overwhelm it," Vorkath declared. "A single fleet is not enough. But if we send every warship we have, hundreds, thousands at once, we may have a chance." Admiral Voxar nodded. "A trap. We lure it into a star system surrounded by our forces. We attack from all sides. No matter how powerful it is, it cannot fight an entire galaxy alone." It was a bold plan, risky, but they had no choice. If they failed, humanity would become the new rulers of the stars. Orders were sent. Fleets from every surviving empire mobilized. Every warship, every weapon, every soldier was prepared. Their mission was simple: destroy the human warship, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, on the human warship, Captain Jackson sat in his command chair, watching the holographic map of the galaxy. His crew worked silently around him, focused, disciplined. They had crushed the enemy once, but he knew the fight wasn't over. "The aliens are regrouping," said his tactical officer. "They're preparing something big." Jackson smirked. "Of course they are." Humanity had spent years in the shadows, preparing for this moment. They knew the alien empires would never accept their defeat so easily. That was why they had built the HSS Retribution. But what the aliens didn't know, what they could never imagine, was that the human warship was just the beginning. Jackson turned to his crew. "Let them come." The battlefield would shake again. And this time, the galaxy would see the full power of humanity. The battle was over. The war was over. But the galaxy would never be the same again. The human warship, HSS Retribution, floated silently in space, surrounded by the wreckage of what was once the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen. The alien fleets had come with thousands of warships, determined to destroy humanity's greatest weapon. They had failed. Not a single human ship had been lost. But the alien fleets, they were gone. The battlefield was littered with broken vessels, shattered remains of once powerful empires. The last survivors had fled, their leaders too terrified to continue the fight. For the first time in history, the galaxy understood one undeniable truth: humanity was the new power. A new galactic order. Across the stars, fear spread like wildfire. The empires that had ruled for centuries were silent, their leaders frozen in uncertainty. The humans had proven themselves unstoppable. On the War Council station deep in the Zarek Nebula, the remaining rulers of the great alien civilizations gathered once again. Their voices were no longer filled with arrogance or pride. They spoke in hushed tones, their faces filled with worry. "What do we do now?" whispered Supreme General Vorkath of the Bracker Dominion. His people had once been feared conquerors. Now, they were nothing. Grand Strategist Elani of the Xilari Consortium shook her head. "We have no choice. We must negotiate." The word tasted bitter on her tongue. Negotiate. With humans, a species they had dismissed as weak. But there was no other option. "We must contact them," said Admiral Voxar of the Threxian Empire, "before they decide to finish what they started." For the first time in history, the rulers of the galaxy prepared to surrender, not just to a single empire, but to an entire species. The human response. Aboard the HSS Retribution, Captain Jackson stood before the holographic communication system. The alien leaders appeared one by one, their expressions tense, their bodies stiff with fear. Jackson took his time. He let them feel the weight of the moment. Finally, he spoke. "You called this meeting," he said, his voice calm but firm. "What do you want?" The alien leaders hesitated. Some looked away, unable to meet his gaze. Others swallowed their pride and spoke. "We seek peace," General Vorkath said, his voice strained. "We recognize humanity's power. We ask for terms." Jackson leaned back in his chair, studying them. These were the same leaders who had once mocked humanity, ignored their warnings, and sent fleets to destroy them. Now, they were begging for peace. The irony was not lost on him. "You seek peace," Jackson repeated, "after you tried to wipe us out." Silence. No one dared to answer. Jackson sighed. "Very well. Here are humanity's terms." The alien leaders tensed. "You will end all hostilities against Earth and its people," Jackson continued. "You will recognize our right to exist, to expand, and to defend ourselves. Any attack against humanity will be seen as an act of war." The rulers exchanged nervous glances. They had no choice but to agree. But Jackson wasn't finished. "There is one more condition," he said. His eyes narrowed. "Humanity will not be ruled by the old ways of this galaxy. The corrupt empires, the endless wars, the oppression. It all ends now." A murmur spread through the alien council. "You're saying," Admiral Voxar hesitated, "that the galaxy will change?" Jackson nodded. "Yes. The days of your empires ruling unchecked are over. There will be balance. There will be peace. And if anyone tries to break that peace," he leaned forward, his voice dropped to a whisper, "humanity will be watching." The dawn of a new era. The treaty was signed. The war was officially over. Across the galaxy, news spread. The humans had won. But more importantly, they had changed everything. The once mighty empires could no longer do as they pleased. The weak were no longer helpless. Those who had lived in fear now had hope. In the dark corners of the universe, resistance movements cheered. Oppressed civilizations saw a chance for freedom. Merchants, explorers, and scientists spoke of a new age. An age where power was not controlled by a few, but shared among many. And in the heart of it all, humanity stood as the silent guardians of this new order. Some alien leaders still plotted in secret, hoping to one day reclaim their lost power. But they knew one thing for certain. If they ever dared to rise again, if they ever threatened the balance of the galaxy, then somewhere in the vastness of space, a human warship would come, and the battlefield would shake once more.